Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Adrian Broner. Hey man, the more this guy talks, the more I like it. And the thing is, when you have a guy who's on the inside of what's going on over there at PBC, what's going on at Showtime, and a guy like Adrian Broner who's going to tell the damn truth, right? It gives you a peek behind the tip flaps. It gives you an idea of really how those guys operate. Now, Adrian Broner knew in the interview he recently did not to necessarily come out and say horrible things about Al Haymon, horrible things about Espinoza, Showtime, and talk about the horrible things that are happening to fighters at PBC. But he said enough to lead you in the direction of believing that the PBC over there is kind of struggling with keeping their fighters active and also paying these fighters the type of money that Adrian Broner feels they deserve. Now, of course, he's going to feel that because he's a fighter. But when you look at a guy like Jermell Charlo's situation, you know, he's had personal things in his life and he's had supposedly an injury. But at the end of the day, things happen, and I think Adrian Broner is in a very fortunate position. So the big thing with Adrian Broner, for you guys to understand, is the man's getting paid 3 times the fight purse with BLK Prime than what PBC was willing to give him. Now, we can sit here and argue back and forth about BLK Prime and as far as them filing bankruptcy several times, about not really knowing the numbers from the Crawford fight, not really knowing what kind of partnerships they have with other platforms that can provide the streaming, where they can sell the fight to other streaming platforms so they can actually stream the fight. You know, we can go back and forth on all of that, because what's happened is, it's like fans have picked a side. It's either you're with Bud Crawford or you're with Earl Spence. And I personally don't give a shit, just to be honest with you. With me, it's all about boxing, but I really want to understand this BLK Prime thing. Because for Broner, and let's just be honest, Al Haymon and PBC, they changed Adrian Broner's life. Adrian Broner made a lot of money throughout his career. Now, for those of you who are saying, man, you know, how do you know that? Because Adrian Broner doesn't lie. And matter of fact, you hear all the fighters, especially Danny Garcia, Earl Spence, you've heard, you know, Porter, you've heard, and there's been countless others, right? But the thing that you hear them say is, I'm satisfied with how much money I'm making. We get paid over here with Al Haymon. Now, what Adrian Broner did in an interview is he went a step further. He caught himself. I think he was on Vlad. And Adrian Broner caught himself because there's certain things he's not supposed to talk about. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to tell you what he said. But what it tells you is the corruption in boxing isn't always bad for fighters. Okay? Now, what Adrian Broner said was, in fights on paper, it may show that he was going to make, let's say, whether it's 1 million, 3 million, 4 million. He said, but in actuality, he was making way more than that. When he was pressed to elaborate, he was like, man, all I'm going to tell you is I was making way more than that. And he wanted to talk about it, but he caught himself and he's like, man, I can't go into all that. I better not say anything. And he was laughing. He was like, just know that I was making way more than whatever I had signed and what was in what I was contracted for. So that tells me, the guaranteed money, he said. Whatever I was guaranteed for, the guarantee, and what was in those contracts, he was like, I was making way more than that. So basically he was saying what was on paper isn't what he was actually being paid. There was something else going on. And to me, for him to get paid whether it was under the table or whatever it was. I guess the benefit could be that he doesn't have to pay so many taxes, or I don't know. But I'm like, well, that's one way where it shows that with Al Haymon and his fighters, he takes care of them in a way that maybe other promoters wouldn't want to, which is by putting the necks on the line, by not doing straightforward business. But at the end of the day, if you can find loopholes in rules and regulations and laws, you need to exploit them. And I think when you're dealing with a guy like Al Haymon, who's been around business for, way before he came into boxing, he understands contracts, he understands laws, regulations, and he understands loopholes, and he knows how to exploit them. But unfortunately for Adrien Broner, those days were over. Because he's a multi-division champion. We all know where he's from. He's always talking about Cincinnati. But when it comes to PBC, when it comes to Showtime, man, look, those handlers just didn't want to give him the type of reward he wanted, based on his lackluster efforts the last couple of years, right? He still wants to make that big money he was making, but he just, look, viewership for Adrien Broner has gone down, fan support has gone down, and I think the overall demand to see Adrien Broner in the ring has gone down, and also his winning streak has been affected. But at the end of the day, he did what was best for him going to BLK Prime. Now, the thing about BLK Prime, the ownership still remains to be, it's like a mystery, man, you know? And when I hear people talk about BLK Prime, like, they just rip these people to pieces. Now, they talk about the fact that BLK Prime has filed bankruptcy several times. A lot of companies, a lot of corporations, a lot of people who are into business file bankruptcy multiple times, right? That's not uncommon. That's not out of the ordinary. Now, I don't know why BLK Prime did, but people just see bankruptcy and everyone thinks, oh, that's horrible. That's probably, that could be a strategic move on the business end. All right, so let's just be real. Now, that's not me saying that, giving an opinion. That what I'm telling you is this is the truth. This is the fact, man. There are a lot of things when it comes to business. Some of these businesses will file bankruptcy in a way to kind of shield themselves and to protect themselves from the IRS or from debt collectors or different things, right? They do it. You can talk about what you want, like Donald Trump. Whether you like Donald Trump or not. How many times you think this man's filed bankruptcy? Okay? So it's a thing they do to protect their wealth. Now, I don't know all the specifics on BLK Prime, but all I'm saying is bankruptcy doesn't always have to be a bad thing. It means that somebody doesn't know what the hell they're doing to end up in a position where they file bankruptcy. Some people do it by choice. Okay? But with Adrien Broner, let's forget the bankruptcy stuff. With the type of contract that he was given, Broner is saying it was God. That's what he said. He called him BLK Prime. He said, it's like God came down and shined a light on me. He's like, because the kind of contract that they gave me, they're just not giving that anymore. He's like, not in the sport of boxing. He was like, man, they were trying to throw him in at PBC with killers. He was like, they tried to put him in super tough fights. Super, super tough fights. Just so he can get the kind of payday that he wanted. So basically what they were going to do, and they were going to use his name and use his name against a fighter, an up-and-coming fighter, who's probably more active, who probably would beat Adrien Broner, and use his name as a springboard to get that fighter to where they need him to be. To basically replace Adrien Broner. And he said he just couldn't do it, man. He's like, man, small-ass money to get in a tough fight, he's like, he's just not doing it. He's like, BLK Prime comes along and gives him a whole lot of money. Now, the thing is, you look at Al Haymon's fighters, they're always extremely loyal. What could cause a guy like Adrien Broner, who says, you know, he's from the streets, he's all about loyalty, he always gets on Floyd Mayweather because he feels like Floyd Mayweather wasn't loyal to him because Adrien Broner is supposed to be Floyd's little brother, And if there was loyalty there as, siblings, and loyalty there as friends, and as someone trying to take care of the younger guy who's in a bad position, then Floyd would have fought an exhibition bout with Adrien Broner, and they both could have made 9-figure purses. Now, this is Adrien Broner saying this, right? First thing we know is Floyd's not going to sit there and just come and just give Adrien Broner an exhibition bout just because. Floyd's not doing that. But Adrien Broner, the reason why I mention that is because Adrien Broner talks about loyalty. And, he's come out and slammed Floyd, saying Floyd didn't help him when he could have. But when you look at that, it makes you wonder about Adrien Broner and his loyalty to Al Haymon, and his loyalty to PBC and to Showtime, because, they changed his life. So that, for me, it was tough trying to understand how he could just walk away. But he said, man, look, the driving factor that led to him leaving PBC and going with BLK Prime, it all boiled down to him, it was money. It was a compensation, okay? Because, see, from PBC, they wanted that compensation to directly line up with the level of opponent. So if Adrien Broner was fighting a lower level opponent, well, then the type of money he was going to make was going to be extremely low. If he was fighting a higher level opponent, then the type of money he made was going to be higher. Okay? So tougher the opponent, higher the payday, easier the opponent, lower the payday. I know you guys are tracking with that. But Broner just didn't like that pay scale. He figured no matter who he fought, because he's a brand, he's Adrien Broner, he should still make the extremely high paychecks, and he wasn't willing to compromise on that. And that's why, my understanding, he pulled out of that Figueroa fight, because it had nothing to do with him mental health issues. He just felt like that wasn't the answer to go in there and take, a BS payday when, he deserved more money. Now, if Broner would have took that fight, he would have beat Figueroa, because, we saw what happened in that fight. Figueroa, it's over for him. He just can't fight no more. He's taking too much damage. He just can't do it. It's over. But Adrien Broner kind of missed out on an opportunity, but hey, look, man, look at the opportunity he has now. So when you think about what's going on right now, man, Broner's trying to watch what he says. He doesn't want to disrespect anyone, but he says they're tripling what PBC was going to get me, and I got to take that. And the thing is, Coach Cunningham is the one who arranged the damn deal for Adrien Broner. It wasn't Adrien Broner. Nobody reached out to Adrien Broner. His coach, Coach Cunningham, he's the one that went out there and got the deal for him. Now that, to me, is just crazy. So what that tells you is, obviously, boxing is a small community, but people know people. And for Cunningham to make a phone call and 3 days later, Adrien Broner has the deal, that's crazy. Because Cunningham was telling Broner they shouldn't treat him like that. His career's not over. He still has a lot to give, and he deserves more respect. So he told Broner, basically, don't just accept what they're giving him. But it doesn't, in the articles I read, doesn't disclose how in the world Cunningham established that connection with BLK Prime. So again, I just think because the boxing community is small, people know people. But for him just to get on that phone, make a phone call, and 3 days later, Broner to have that deal in place, that speaks volumes about just, the importance of networking, and it is what it is. But there's something that got my attention when we talk about this BLK Prime. For the fighters who are fighting on BLK Prime, they get 40% of the pay-per-view buys. Now, that's unheard of. Now, of course, they got to get their pay-per-view sales up to make sure that these fighters can get paid handsomely, right? No one really knows what Bud made. The amount of pay-per-view sales for Bud versus Avanasian. Say 120,000. Then you look at that website that posted that. Anybody can create an account and promote what they want. So, it's kind of hard to go with those numbers. But, it is what it is. But for Adrien Broner, fighting in Atlanta, I'm telling you right now, I don't know what Adrien Broner's are going to be. We don't have a crystal ball, but I would think Adrien Broner's numbers are going to be a bit higher than whatever Crawford actually did. And I really wish somebody, all these guys who want to interview people about boxing, about fighters, somebody find a way to interview that fly on the wall. Y'all talking to managers, y'all talking to promoters, y'all talking to guys in the sanctioning bodies. Get an interview with that goddamn fly on the wall, because the only reasonable source at this time is the damn fly on the wall who happens to be in there when negotiations are taking place, when these conversations are taking place. That way they can let us know the real deal. Because right now, none of us know, man. And it's frustrating as hell. But at the end of the day, if you can get 40% of your pay-per-view buys, you fight on Saturday, you get it on that Monday, instead of waiting 6 months till the numbers come in, or 8 months or a year, that's going to get anyone's attention. It's like the elevator pitch, man. You got a short window of time to pitch your what it is that you feel the benefit of you coming over to that organization. You got a short window of time to do that. So you develop an elevator pitch. You got to say the right things. And in that elevator pitch, I tell you what, all any organization has to do when they're talking to a fighter is you get 40% of the pay-per-view buys. That's it. And then after that, you got their attention. And that's kind of what happened with Adrian Broner. But anyway, man, he's really grateful for Cunningham. He said they all watched what was going on. They said things are just getting more and more shady over at PBC. And they had to go find some different money. And he made the phone call, and hey, BLK Prime came right along. 3 days later, they had the deal done. Broner even said, when it comes to these extravagant paydays, if BLK Prime can keep paying him, Broner said he doesn't care. It's not his problem. As long as he does his job, everything should be good. So at the end of the day, Adrian Broner is supposed to be fighting three times a year, getting paid real money. He talks about what's going on with fighters over at PBC. He was very specific about Charlo and just saying it's screwed up that you got these guys who have titles. And yeah, they may have things going on in their lives, but he's like, but at the end of the day, the PBC is just not, and Showtime, those guys are just not getting them fights and putting them in the slots they need to be as the attraction. Sometimes they want to put guys there as a co-main, and some of those guys don't want to accept that. So there's a lot of things that we're just not privy to. And then sometimes, as fans, a lot of people like to sit back and just start to shred these fighters when they have no idea of the reason why they're actually not getting the opportunities to fight or they're not in the ring. There's so much more to it than we'll ever know. That's why I say it's so important to goddamn get an interview with that fly on the wall so they can kind of, shed some light on what's really going on and get some of these negative-ass boxing fans to shut up. But that being said, Adrian Broner is back. He's fighting Red Catch. Let me tell you, that's not an easy damn fight. Adrian Broner is not the Adrian Broner he used to be, and Adrian Broner is not pro-grade. So y'all need to get that out your head. Ivan Red Catch can fight. But we'll see how it goes. But don't be surprised if you get something where it's screaming robbery, because I have a feeling if Broner can't stop Red Catch, and Red Catch feels he can take what Broner's dishing out, because Red Catch is going to fight. Broner may have an uphill battle, but it is what it is. That being said, y'all be cool. I'm glad to see AB back. I'm glad to see that he's, like you said, man, rising from the ashes like the phoenix, and he's trying to do things the right way. He got the second chance for the second part of his career to make real money. He's talking about changing the lives of not only his kids, his siblings' children, the children's children, forthcoming children, and he just wants to ride this thing as long as he can and do the right thing. But we'll see if he starts to get paid real good money, if he reverts back to doing all the stupid stuff like flushing $5, $10, $20 bills down the toilet and things that I'm sure he regrets at this point in time. But I'm rooting for him. It is what it is. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.